If this goes on, don't panic. Bringing hope to the world through speculative fiction.
Welcome to If This Goes On, Don't Panic. This is episode 25, and we're excited to be back doing some live episodes. Hey, Alan, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. This has been a spectacular day, and I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we've got a ton of guests today, but before we get started on anything, I do want to give a shout out to Joe Bilucky. Joe Bilucky, who really helped us out on the last podcast. He kind of jumped in out of nowhere to help us produce that,
thank
that
you.
podcast. So everyone go check out his podcast called Riding the Rapids. I just recently went out and listened to him interview Sam Pink. And if everyone recalls, all of our listeners out there, I reviewed one of his books not too long ago. So it was a really cool interview. Everyone should go and check out that podcast. So many thanks again, Joe. Much appreciated.
Awesome. That's great. Well, who have we got today?
Oh, boy. We've got a whole cast of people here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read everyone's bio, even though they're not all going to be talking right away. And then they're going to introduce themselves very briefly, just say hi, so everyone out there can recognize their voices. So I'm going to start with Sarah Berman. Sarah has been on multiple times before. Sarah is one who embraces the divine honor of creating worlds with words in the hope of inspiring others. Sarah has been writing for more than 25 years, starting with poetry and then moving on to nonfiction and genre fiction. She lives in the U.S. with 2 monsters, an ogre, and whatever drama llama is coming to visit this week. My kids are the drama llamas, so I live with them all the time. Sarah is the author of the Runespell series, Too Weird, Fluffy Bunny and the Chains That Bind. She has short stories in several anthologies, including Counterclockwise, a time travel anthology, A Twist of Fate, a collection of 11 twisted fairy tales, and Beyond the Mask, a superhero anthology. Sarah also has a blog via Patreon and makes funny videos on her blog, practically writing as well as streaming on Twitch. So Sarah basically does everything. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello. I need to update that because I have a new Runespells book out.
Oh, what's the name of it?
Yes, she does.
It is Blood of the Moon.
And it's amazing. It might be the best one yet. It's great.
You say that every time.
It gets better every time.
I have to reach my peak eventually.
You haven't done it yet.
All right, our next guest is Catrina Taylor. She is a professional author, passionate mother, and sci-fi enthusiast. She is also the author of more than 20 books, with many more on the horizon. You can find her online as The Lady Writes across most social media platforms. Welcome, Catrina.
Hello, and thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Why don't you give us the name of a few of your books real quick?
Xerox. The original series is Xerox, Birth of an Empire. The next series is a Legacy series. My Kindle Vella is the Augmented. I've got a couple I'm reworking.
No worries. I think that happens to everybody at some point, except for me. I'm a non-writer who's just very interested in writing. I somehow cheated the system so far.
We'll just have to suck you in. It's all good.
Well, I used to write a little bit, and especially in my college years, I actually published quite a bit back then. I mean, it was, college level stuff, but I got away from it.
And you can always come join us in the game of tomes and get back into it. It's a good way to dip in your feet. Yes. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. We'll get you yet.
And after that, we'll have to bring you into 31 days.
Yep. You might want to start with 31 days, actually, because it's all about stories instead of novels.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Well, see, bad. You all are bad influence. already.
Yep.
It's been 5 minutes. All right, our next guest is Coffee Quills, a Floridian living under the neon lights of Tokyo. That's pretty cool. They write multi-genre fiction like post-apocalyptic poly-romance / adventure. And they also write video game narration for the Words and run progress sprints on their Twitch channel. Welcome, Coffee Quills.
Good morning, or I guess for you guys, good afternoon.
Yeah, afternoon here.
Yes.
Good morning for poor Coffee, who dragged himself out of bed at stupid o'clock. So thank you for doing that, as always.
No worries. 6:30 isn't so bad.
You're an inspiration. I'm going to be doing a Flight of Foundry conference this year, and I have something at like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I asked them, I'm like, can I be disheveled? Is that okay with you? They're like, come disheveled at your own risk. I said, okay.
Exactly.
And then next we have Jonathan Stark. So John is actually going to be in the later part of the episode, but we want to introduce him now in case he had any snarky comments to make.
I usually do. That's pretty much my profession, is snarky comments.
Exactly. John had his first Dungeons and Dragons experience when he was 5, when his dad took him to a mysterious shop in Fort Lauderdale run by a strange bearded man who sold magical books and figurines. John was pretty sure he was a wizard. And when they got home, his dad began work on running him through a now classic 2nd edition Undermountain dungeon.
Ooh,
he
Undermountain.
promptly... Go ahead, what'd you say?
I was like, oh yeah, Undermountain. I remember Undermountain.
That's the one.
That's the one.
He probably became terrified of the description of a crazed ghost knight marauding through the city of Waterdeep, and that is where his adventures in Dungeons and Dragons would end for the next 25 years. Although he did become a fan of J.R.R. Tolkien, Lloyd Alexander, and Joe Dever.
Mm-hmm.
Dever.
That's Joe Dever of the Lone Wolf series, yeah.
And I gotta say, I'm actually reading through the Lloyd Alexander books with my 9-year-old right now.
We named our son Taryn after the Lloyd Alexander books.
Nice.
Oh my god!
Nice.
That's awesome.
And my first D&D experience was the red box set with the D20 that had the crayon that you had to color the numbers with.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you could make them all 20s. That's the nice thing.
That's true. But welcome.
Let's see. Oh, I got to introduce his projects real quick. He's the Dungeon Master and podcaster of Alignments May Vary. And also, you're working on Journeys Through Magnamund, the official Lone Wolf podcast for Home Guard Press. And that series is being released in spring 2022. And you also do the Bestiary podcast. And we already mentioned Alignments May Vary, right? So did I get all your projects?
There's so many projects, but yeah, those are the big ones.
And you're also working on your first novel right now, too.
I am, yeah.
Oh, good. We'll suck him into Game of Tomes, too.
Hey, I'm always down.
Plan.
There you go. And then finally, for our very last segment, we will have Eli Quake. They are a trans, non-binary author from Pasadena, California. They don't do boring when they aren't writing. They are doing theater, burlesque, or making mischief at a Renaissance festival. But mostly they're writing, lost in a world of their own making. After all, why live in reality when there are so many other worlds to explore?
Hi, Eli. Welcome. Thanks for coming on the show last minute.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all.
So we have quite a crew here, So I guess the first topic we're going to discuss is Conduit, right?
That's right. Writer's Conduit.
Yeah, Writer's Conduit. So someone explain to us what that is.
That sounds like a coffee job.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yes. Get the person least awake to explain.
But you're in charge.
So Writer's Conduit was actually one person saying, we should get together and talk. And Coffee going, a convention is a great idea. And with that, Writer's Conduit was born. It is a conference by writers for writers, using Twitch to give our panels and presentations and workshops, and organizing things behind the scenes with Discord as well. So last year we had around 3 days of quality information, over 75 different panels, which were hosted by people who have Twitch accounts. However, we had a lot of guests come onto the Twitch accounts. For example, book designers and other literary people who may not be on Twitch most of the time.
Our very own Cat Rambo was one of the people we tapped from outside of the Twitch community to come and share her knowledge with us. So, yeah. It's entirely a grassroots effort. And, yeah, I remember when you came up with this, Coffee, and you're like, oh, and I know some people to ask who have, because Coffee's vision was to bring together, the Twitch writers community is a bunch of little islands of connection, and their vision was to bring all of those islands together into one place. And I think that they were really successful at it. So they reached out to the Lady Wrights, who runs a challenge called 31 Days, 31 Stories. The challenge is to write 31 stories, one story a day during the course of a month. And to Author Goddess and myself, who were also involved in communities like the Anvilite Streamer Corps, which is writers who stream World Anvil content, and the Game of Tomes, which we'll talk about at the end of the show. So.
Exactly. Also had Twitch Writers Network. We had the NaNoWriMo crew as well. And what I like to call wild writers. The people who pop up on Twitch through no affiliated group and just like, oh, there's a Twitch writers community? And it's so much fun to meet those folks too. And last but not least, the Dust Warriors from For the Words who are on Twitch as well.
Sounds awesome.
It was. And it will be again this year.
Agreed. It's going to be even bigger. And
I'm going to do it.
Plotting to draw in more people.
So let's talk about that. You said you had 3 days worth of stuff. Do you mean like literally like 72 hours nonstop, or how did that work exactly?
We had like 4 to 6 hours built into every day for everybody to pass out.
Good plan.
But
we ran 3 streams worth of panels, kind of a general theme of the craft of writing, the business of writing, and the community of writing. And so you could come to one of 3 panels at any given time, and there was always what we called the chill and chat space as well, where people could just go hang out with other writers, maybe do some writing. Some people ran some writing prompts, some people talked. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it's going to be even bigger this year.
Well, what all do you expect to change this year? What are you adding and what are you subtracting?
Oh, hopefully get more people involved in presenting panels and hosting panels. We had a lot of people at the end of Conduit last year start typing in the Discord, oh, you know what would be great for next year? We should do a panel on insert topic A, B, triple Z.
And we said, great, present us with an idea. And there's a form that you can fill out, which I should probably link, but as usual, don't have handy. But I bet that Sarah does.
Well, I will let everyone know.
Always thinks I'm so together.
A good reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm usually fumbling. I fooled you all. Okay, but I have to do it. I'm going to do it. It's in my brain, so I'm going to do it. Is everybody ready for this?
Okay.
Islands in Twitch streams. That is what we are. No one in between. How can we be wrong? Alrighty.
There we go. That's
that.
awesome. Yeah, Coffee linked the form. If you guys, if people in the audience or watching on the VOD would like to sign up for a panel, could present us with an idea, and you can organize on the Conduit Discord to get people to join you, or you can ask us for help. We're happy to try to help match people up. We prefer that you do some legwork yourself to start with, but if you are having trouble, we can match things up or combine similar ideas or anything like that. One of the things that I think is beautiful and unique about Writers Conduit is that it is 100% a grassroots effort. This is writers at all levels in their career and all levels of ability. We don't care if you've published or not. We don't care if all you've published is fan fiction. We're lovely to hear from, it's lovely to hear from you regardless. There up to now has been absolutely zero money involved. Everyone has donated their time and their energy. We've had some great people. The World Anvil people were very enthusiastic supporters last year, as was Tale Foundry, who is a rather large writing channel on YouTube, but also has a Twitch channel. We're going to reach out to some more people that you may have heard of this year, and yeah, the wealth of knowledge when we all put it together is just amazing. And this is why I really wanted to have my co-conspirators on the show.
Wouldn't have happened without the amazing organizational committee that we had for Conduit.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because I've always wondered what it takes to get a con together. It seems like
Drugs.
Almost impossible, frankly. I mean, I know how it is to organize things at work, and that's just like 4 or 5 people, right?
Lots of caffeine, a little cocaine once in a while.
Whoa. Well, I didn't try that method, but
get through the day.
I may or may not have borrowed Dayquil.
Are we talking about specifically for Conduit or as a writer in general? Because that applies to both.
Yeah.
I was talking about Conduit specifically, but
communication.
Lots of it. Microtasks and commitment.
Mm-hmm. And people who have special skills, I mean, Author Goddess, for example, not the only one who has special skills on the committee, but if you ever even think about Excel, she has already done it, knows it, and can produce it in like 3 seconds before you finish saying the idea.
Oh, come on. It takes me at least 30 seconds.
You always have to have someone that knows Excel. You have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Google Sheets, but you also have to have the people who can talk to the community. The people who can bring in other people and smooth, ruffle feathers. And you have to have the people who are more organized with marketing, who can craft together logos and stuff in, we used Canva, but whatever you want to use. Mm-hmm. You need the tech side. You need people who can, okay, this person's internet is not working. Everyone, the last minute person is over here, shuffle this way.
Yeah.
If you're doing it online and internationally, you need people who can figure out time zones. Very important.
That's not me.
Mods, lots and lots of mods.
Mm-hmm.
And you need people who can get other people excited about it. Because, like, having been on many, many planning organizations for many, many things over the years, keeping everyone going for months at a time is hard. It is so easy to just give up and be like, yeah, this isn't worth it, kind of thing. So having that, like, encouragement cycle is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because we all get anxiety.
Yeah, expect that people who are on the organizational committee, whatever it is, are going to have everyone's going to have a breakdown, including you at one point. So, be prepared for that and be prepared to support each other through it because it will pass.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, just like everything.
Oh, and you have to have a very firm rule that people, Sable, are not allowed to overschedule themselves for the week after busting their behinds for months ahead of time because they will burn out right in the middle of it. And while the bonfire is nice, it does not result in a happy situation.
No,
Facts.
doesn't.
Oh, her goddess. Cough, cough.
Right. I was just gonna say that.
I
But
do
then we
not
could add
do
coffee
that.
to that list too.
Oh, what?
See, most of the panels I was on last year, I was voluntold to do it.
Yep. They're trying to volunteer me for another one too. They're like, yeah, but I'm like, I really like the idea, and I would really love to talk about this. But damn,
right.
I don't know. I've already got a lot on my plate, so yeah.
Yeah. Well,
right.
unfortunately, we're like bakers who can't stop tasting the wares. We want our fingers in everything. This is so fun.
So last year was your first year. What did you learn from it, and what is the coolest thing that happened?
I think that's an everybody question, right? We should all answer that individually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, everybody had something different cool, probably.
Okay, the first thing we learned was we should not do organization planning in less than 2 months. Just no.
Yeah, that was a nice lesson. I think everyone learned that coffee does things with multiple colors everywhere.
It worked for me. I don't know what you guys are Okay, what we're referring to, right?
We had a sheet, yeah.
Yeah, okay, because this was new, and we knew that a lot of the writers who were involved, because of them being, just kind of jumping in on the Twitch community and not really being familiar with other writers' cons and things like that, right? We knew that people were new. So we did a lot of the organizing and setting up panels and whatnot at the beginning. We ended up with this insane spreadsheet, which everyone called Panel Tetris. And it was all color-coded so we could figure out what the hell was going on. And everybody else was like, this hurts my brain, and Coffee and I were like, what? This is great. What?
I've seen the pictures.
The Franken sheet.
It was very colorful, but I loved it. And I agree with both Coffee and Sable. It was fine.
Clearly it was ADD organization, so yeah. Yeah, okay, but don't do that, because some people are more organized than that and need more yeah.
So what was the coolest thing that happened? And I'm going to go around this time. I'm going to call everyone's name, and then you're going to tell me the coolest thing that happened. All right. So we'll go from right to left on my screen. So, Catrina, what was the coolest thing that happened to you?
During Conduit, it was seeing the turnout and seeing how well this community welcomed the events and jumped in as soon as everything started streaming. I was not as involved in the early parts of it as I wanted to be, but I can tell you that it was such an emotional experience for me to see so many wonderful people just coming out and being encouraging and getting involved with the different events and seeing all of the support both from the other communities and for each other and the positivity. It was unbelievably incredible.
Awesome. Diane.
For me, it was seeing a whole bunch of, writing can be a really lonely profession, right? We spend a lot of time by ourselves. And one of the reasons why we start streaming when we do that is so that we can, maybe hang out with some other writers, people who are weird like us. So it was really awesome to see so many people who had previously had no connection because of circumstance, just coming together and finding their tribe. They were all, just so much joy at finding other people who think like you and care about the things you care about. And, you know, you're not the weird writer friend in the room. Everybody's a weird writer friend. And people learning that they had skills and talents to offer that they hadn't really regarded as skills and talents to offer prior to that. It was beautiful. People grew, and it was amazing to see them do that.
Awesome. Coffee.
Most amazing thing for me was it happened. I know that's maybe encompassing all of it. You wanted me to pick one thing, but an idea was like hatched. A group of amazing people came together, donated so much time and energy to getting this done. And then the community came together as well to give knowledge and take knowledge and make friends and realize they don't have to be that, as Sable was saying, that one weird writer friend. There's many weird writer friends. We're all together. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this whole thing happened based on me misinterpreting someone else. I'm still blown away about that.
Yeah, a nice happy accident there, right?
Very much so, yes.
Sarah, what about you?
Well, okay, so the entire closing ceremony was just flippin' epic.
It was.
But I think the peak point was the excitement over seeing Coffee's face.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's right. The first 20 messages. Oh my God, that's what Coffee looks like.
The
Coffee
great
does not
mystery was
stream their
solved.
face when they are streaming, right? They stream a colorful display of stuff and what they're writing. So actually seeing them on camera was quite the thing for people. It was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
It was so much fun.
And Eli, you aren't technically part of this group, but it sounds like you were there and involved. So what about you?
For me, I was on 8 panels last year, which I have been advised not to do again. But for me, it was meeting all of these authors and writers and creators within the community that I didn't even know existed previously. And getting to know them and their writing process and just chatting. And it was so wonderful getting to know everyone. And also seeing Coffee, because it was like, oh my God, you're so adorable. Okay, now that I'm done embarrassing Coffee.
So what do you plan for the second year? You know, you mentioned it's going to be bigger, but what does that mean? And give us an example of some new things that are happening.
Oh, well
I think...
Oh, go ahead.
I think the two biggest things are, number one, we are asking panelists to come up with their own panels this year, so we should have a lot more diversity in terms of what is available. We are pushing for more international panels, and not just in the sense that people from other countries presenting panels, but also going multilingual. Mm-hmm. So we're looking forward to seeing people actually doing panels in Spanish and French, and I know it's not a real language, but it's my favorite go-to, Czechoslovakian. But we're also experimenting with the way that we are formatting the schedule, rather than having tracks that will simply go into, one panel to another. We're building in breaks, and we're making it easier for people to discover and move to the panels of their choices at each interval. So that'll be fun in the sense that people will be able to be more interactive in what they want. Because if you're not used to Twitch, then you can just kind of sit there and fumble along. But it should be easier for people to get to things that they are very much interested in. And I'm looking forward to seeing what people do in regards to that and what they're drawn to. So
I'm looking forward to getting the data from the change that we're doing so that we can, I think in marketing a lot of times, so the numbers, and once we know how many are actually there, it'll be nice to be able to say, okay, we know that these people are here during this segment. We can give them more of this. And that's going to be fun.
Interesting.
One of the things we're doing, we have an official channel. That's twitch.tv/writersconduit. And I will put that in the chat as well when I'm done talking about it. We're using, last year we basically used it for our opening and closing ceremonies. And then we used the Twitch rating system to raid into the next panel. This year we're going to use Writers Conduit channel as the hub for everything. So if you go there, you should be able to find out what is going on at any given time and find your way to whatever you want to watch. We're going to run a 24/7 just, hang out with music stream on that channel. So if you just need a place to go and unplug for a few minutes, but you still want to socialize, you can do that. And we're enlisting the help of Satrium, who is the developer who created the Game of Tomes bot, to create a bot for us so that we can keep people updated on what the current panels are that are live, where you can find them, who is live at any given moment that is streaming for Conduit, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it should be easier to coordinate and find what you're looking for.
Cool. Awesome. And so one more question, and then we need to let the audience ask any questions if they have any. Accessibility is a big deal every year at conferences. What are you all doing for accessibility?
Last year we had, we were using primarily things like Google Meet and Zoom as our focus for how to bring the different panels together so that people could talk. Both of those software have closed captioning built in. So it was requested that wherever possible, closed captioning be run as part of your panel. There are other tools you can use on your Twitch channel, but they're more difficult. They often only get the person who's hosting, and that's just not as effective. So we do recommend those two tools so that people can get better access that way, right? We tried, but largely failed last year, to be honest, in recording most of them so that people could go back over with it later. We did get a few, but because this is individually driven and there was a lot of confusion, we only ended up with a few of last year's panels that are recorded and available on our YouTube channel. However, this year we're going to make a greater personal effort to do that, and hopefully it will work out better. So if you lost something and you need to go back over it later, you can check. And like Sarah said, we're going multilingual. We're encouraging people to come and present a panel in Spanish, come and present a panel in French. We would love to have it. Whatever language you speak, if there's a community you want to reach out to, we want you to do that.
Awesome. Oh, one other question I almost forgot to ask. When is the conference? The most obvious question.
Last full weekend in June.
1 second, let me pull out my calendar.
I believe that's
Friday, June
24th,
24th, Saturday,
25th.
June 25th, and Sunday, June 26th.
Okay, so June 24th, 25th, and 26th. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And you can find more information and keep up to date on what's going on at writersconduit.com or at twitch.tv/writersconduit.
And of course, in your inbox if you get on the newsletter.
Awesome.
And I stay on top of that.
Are there any questions from the audience?
I'm just typing in the links to the chat right now, but I am also watching the chat for questions at this point. We had lots of people commiserating with us with the difficulty of organizing a conference, because apparently we're not the only ones out there who have done that. Someone said the author archipelago. Pretty much. Yeah. And there was a recommendation for something called Airtable. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like it might be a scheduling app, and I will look into it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, if there's any questions in the future, feel free to put those in there in the chat, and we'll get to them at some point. And so what we'll do, guests, is at the end, we're going to come back to you all, and we've got a few questions that we ask everybody at the same time during these live episodes.
Right. Oh, Dazzlecat has a question. Does this mean there will be a means to just click and go watch the panel you are looking for? Yes, that's the goal. We're hoping. Yeah, we're hoping you'll be able to find that both on the Writers Conduit website and on the Twitch channel at any given time.
Oh, I actually had a question. Since
Cool.
I'm on the committee. Will there still be those chill and chat streams? Because I loved running one of those last year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the plan is that for just kind of the music chat, or like just quiet music and whatever, we're going to do 24 hours of that on the Conduit channel, but we're also encouraging people to run chill and chat streams where they do writing sprints or writing prompts or whatever else they want to do. Aaron's already volunteered to do it as well. He liked doing it last year. So yeah, there'll be space for that. And that will run as an independent path that will go in conjunction with that. And Catrina is going to be doing interviews in that stream as well.
Neat.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that goes back to the accessibility as well, as having a place where you can just settle on a little quiet island and regain energy instead of not having a place and having panel to panel to panel to panel to panel to panel to panel.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
And the
As any-
interviews on that level are going to be done. We're trying to get somebody from as many different time zones as possible so we can run it the whole time and be able to interview people from the community who might not be ready to run a panel but might have a book out or a new discussion that they want to have, that they'll be able to get in touch with us ahead of time and plan something like that, as well as bring in other people who might want to talk to the community directly.
Cool. Well, thanks for that, everybody. I think it is now time for us to do a quick little commercial, and then when we come back, we'll be with Mr. John Stark.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
Solarpunk Futures is a podcast about building radically hopeful futures through storytelling and exploration of the solarpunk genre. The podcast features readings of science fiction stories, poetry, and articles published in Solarpunk magazine, as well as interviews with authors, activists, artists, futurists, and others from the solarpunk community who are envisioning and actively creating a better future. You can find Solarpunk Futures anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also listen directly on our website at solarpunkmagazine.com.
And we're back.
All right, we are. Go ahead, Diane.
No, I say go ahead. Let's introduce our next guest.
All right, John, welcome aboard.
Hey, happy to be here.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a blast after we had you on the bestiary. I couldn't say no.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I know Kat and I had a great time on there. And so got a ton of questions for you, but I also want to invite everybody else, all the other guests on here. If you have quests for John or you just want to heckle him or whatever, feel free.
Please, I'm good at heckles. I handle them well.
Just heckle nicely. Heckle kindly.
And I can steal your heckles and use them later myself. So it's all good material.
Yeah.
So, John, you are a man of many, many projects. Let's talk about your first one, your main project, as of this moment, anyway. Alignments may vary. So,
Yeah.
why don't you just kind of give everybody an idea of what that is and how that came about?
Well, alignment may vary is sort of like the hub world of my projects. If you think of it in video game terms, it's where all the quest givers are. Alignment may vary started. I ran a Dungeons and Dragons game for a group of friends that ended up lasting 4.5 years, and in that time. Earlier here, you guys were talking earlier in the show about the loneliness of writing. And I think Dungeons and Dragons is what actually encouraged me to sort of that writing, I could approach it, because you do that collaboratively. It's like a collaborative creative process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's really where this took off, because we ended up telling this story that wasn't just, Dungeons and Dragons. It wasn't just going into dungeons and getting treasure and slaying monsters. It ended up being this generation spanning tale. And I'm not ashamed to say it. We were all in tears in the last campaign mission session. We had made each other cry with these characters and ideas that we had created together. And so we started to think like, well, there's something deeper here. This is something that more people should experience. And we just started looking for ways to kind of share that with the world. So Alignment May Vary was the result of many attempts to share that. And there's a lot of different formats. There are blog posts. I blogged the entire 4.5-year campaign. Every session I wrote a blog going into
Good
it.
for you. I can barely keep up my campaign notes.
It's a project. It was I think 99 posts.
Nice.
And I'm still in the middle of, I took it one step further and started creating encyclopedia entries for every NPC and character. We got an artist to do character art. So that project is ongoing. That is one that I handle a lot slower now that I have a son. It is one I try to get back to from time to time.
Sounds like you need a world anvil.
What I need is a series of minions.
I feel you there.
Yes.
So we then branched off into podcasting, and we ended up doing 3 podcasts. I will say all of them are ended now. But there are 3 on there, and all the episodes are still up on the website. We did one that was just called Adventurous Appetizers. That was a really quick, just kind of almost shower thoughts on D&D. Sometimes it was reviews, sometimes it was just musings on how to DM. We did one that was an attempt to actually turn the entirety of our campaign into a radio show. And we did 5 episodes of that, basically completing one arc before we said, we don't have enough voice talent or enough time to take this on ourselves. But it was a great way to learn how to use podcasting tools and all that. The one that went the longest was called The Bestiary. And this was a show where every episode we took a monster out of the monster manual, with a guest on who had picked the monster, and we deep dove into them. I mean, not the kind of stuff you can find within just the pages of the monster manual. I mean, we really extrapolated and went far to find out what their mating habits were, what they would taste like if you ate them, and just went kind of off the wall with it. And that show was actually pretty successful. That had a fair amount of followers and got a lot of attention. And we ultimately ended up just moving on from it, mostly because I got hired to do this Lone Wolf podcast.
So I do want to briefly say the best year John had invited us on, and Cat Rambo and I ended up going on, and we had quite a good time. And yes, it was a very deep dive into. We did Griffins. And, we had quite a fun time with that.
One of my favorite moments from Alan and Kat's episode is we do this thing where we do the gauntlet, where we would just throw questions at the guests, and the questions this time were all essentially prompts for short fantasy stories or sci-fi stories based around the Griffin. So it's a series of prompts thrown at Kat and Alan in about what we did, like 5 and maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and the stories they came up with were awesome.
Lots of child death.
yeah. Alan focused on child death a lot. I don't know what that means. I saw earlier in the chat you said you were dealing with your child, and I'm a little concerned.
Oh shit! Here comes CYS. Oh man, yeah, that was fun. We had a good time with that. So now you've moved on to the Lone Wolf podcast. Let's just take a second to orient everyone to what Lone Wolf was or is. So I enjoyed these books when I was a kid. I don't know. I was probably like 10 or 12 or something when they came out. And they were basically like choose your own adventures, but taken to the next level, a little more complicated. So, somewhere between D&D and choose your own adventure, maybe.
Yeah. The Lone Wolf series was written by Joe Deaver. He was a British author. He passed away, sadly, a few years back. But the Lone Wolf series was started in 1984, and it is actually contemporary with the earliest Choose Your Own Adventures. And the thing that makes it most different is you play as a single character through the first 20 books, and then another character for the next 13 or 14. And so it's a continuous story that builds up the world of Magnamund. And you have combat, you pick your magic, you pick your Kai disciplines. You're something called a Kai Lord, which is like almost a fantasy Jedi. And I mean, you level, you fight, you roll dice. It's a blast.
Yeah, it was really cool. I remember you started at first level at whatever book you were at, and then when you finished that book, you kind of leveled up. And I remember like, because I didn't use dice. Mine always had like a graph on the front page with like a number chart.
You're not wrong. That's called the random number table. And, I say dice because I've been playing these books for so long. At some point along the way, I switched to dice. But yeah, the classic thing about them was you didn't really need to bring anything to the table except a pencil. And the random number table, you would close your eyes, and ostensibly you didn't know where the best numbers were. And you would drop your pencil on the page. And wherever you left a mark, that was the number you rolled, so to speak.
Yeah. And I just remember going back, choosing a number, and it was always like 0 or 1. You'd be like, shit, 7 looks good. You know what I mean? Cheating a little bit, you know?
Sounds like a great way to introduce people to tabletop gaming. That sounds awesome.
Oh, it was. And Deaver himself, he was actually the first winner of the Dungeons and Dragons tournament. At least cool. the British one. And yeah, so he was actually a bit of a celebrity in that world. And his books were one of the most successful in that sort of genre of choose your own adventure books. He sold, I mean, it was released in multiple languages across the world. Now, there's an interesting history here, and this is kind of where I come in. In 1998, Joe Deaver publishes the 28th book, which was The Hunger of Sejanaz. And this was during a time when the gaming industry, the tabletop gaming industry, was kind of going through a collapse. TSR had its big collapse, and nobody was really wanting to publish these kind of books anymore. So they essentially canceled him. They actually canceled him with such short notice. He didn't get to finish Hunger of Sejanaz, and he just kind of had to stop and put an ending there. Now, Joe did an amazing thing. I think this is kind of unprecedented. At least it's certainly he was the first person I think to have ever done this. In 1999, he basically said, as a present to the fans, I'm giving you license to print all my books for free in HTML format online. Mm-hmm. All 28. And This is still available. This is called projectaeon.org, where you can go and play every single book for free. And it's even in some ways easier because instead of flipping pages, you're clicking a link and you go to the next section that you chose.
Now, I think someone made an app out of these, didn't they?
There were numerous apps kind of made to help play these, but really, I mean, you don't need an app. You can just go on your phone, on your computer, wherever, and it'll work. And it was an amazing gift, and what it did was it kept the series alive, because the books have become notoriously hard to find, but the fan base rallied around this site. And I was one of those fans. And here we are in 2022, and Joe Dever's son has picked up the series. He's finishing it. He's finishing the books, and which the last 4 books. And also, they're bringing back the definitive editions of every single book in the series. It's being republished. So it's kind of I started playing this when I was 8. And here it is 30 years later, and I'm getting to see them released like fresh,
That is awesome. What a cool thing that it's coming back and whatnot. Yeah, I remember the collapse. There wasn't a lot, it looked like the whole industry was going to completely fall apart there for a while, and everyone started hoarding their books. And I remember that you could start to find D&D books online, and people were charging $300, you know? Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, but so glad that people were still doing things out there and keeping the dream alive. That's great.
It was a wonderful example of, I think, an author thinking in terms not of money and consumerism and capitalism, but really going this route of, hey, these belong to the fans as much as they belong to me. And they're your stories. I mean, it is choose your own adventure. So it is your stories as much as they are mine. Yeah. And he was so open to dialogue with the fans. I talked to his son, Ben, and asked him, what was it like when you found out that there was this group here? There's just this huge fan base, because he didn't know. His son actually said my dad would disappear into the garage on his typewriter, and he'd come back 3 days later with a book, and we'd go, okay, well, that's what dad does. So when he first accessed this community, he said it was just like mind bending, especially, it was shortly after his father had passed, and suddenly all these people were coming forward to help him carry the weight of that, of that loss.
So how did you get involved?
I've been a fan of Lone Wolf since I was 8 years old. And it wasn't easy being an American fan, because they were British books. They were hard to find in America. And the American company decided to kind of butcher the books. They cut sections out of them because they wanted it to be cheaper.
Oh, no, how can you cut sections of a Choose Your Own Adventure? That's ridiculous.
Well, not only that, but they didn't even reorder the pages in some circumstances.
No.
So you ended up with that, what is it, that third planet of Altair Choose Your Own Adventure book where you can't reach the final page. You actually have to cheat to get to it. Wow. You ended up with that situation. The maps were butchered, and they never published past book 20. So the reason this is relevant is I thought, much like Highlander, I thought I was the only one. and then the internet happens, and suddenly I'm finding there's these fan sites for Lone Wolf, and I'm learning, oh my God, there's other people who know this series. And of course, then Project Aeon is released, and I just have stayed a pretty active member of the community for the last, well, I think now 22 years. And more recently, Ben carried on the legacy of his father by really reaching out to fans and utilizing them to help do things such as rewrite the new books, edit them. He's always in dialogue with us. And I just reached out to him one day and started talking about what the books meant to me, and, presented kind of what I did, my skills. And he said he wanted me to get started on a lot of things with the project. So You know, there's talks going on about me writing a book in the series.
Nice.
But the thing that's
Cool.
currently happening is I'm podcasting. Me and another longtime fan, his name is August Hahn, and he is a lore master for this series, but he also has Joe gave him his original journals that have all the notes from each book he wrote.
Nice.
So
Very
me and
cool.
August, the real style of this podcast, I should say there's two goals to this podcast. The first, we do one for every single book. So that's 32 podcast episodes right there that are going to be coming. But there's also going to be episodes where we interview some of the other people involved with the series, such as Gary Chalk, who did a lot of the art for the books and is later known for doing art for Redwall and that series. We also, but the primary episodes, the thrust of them is that we're one, speaking to people who don't know these books, and we're giving you a little bit of a preview of each book. We're going through it, talking about different sections, different things you might encounter. Not very spoiler heavy, just really kind of giving you a taste of what it would be like to dip a toe into this world. We're also talking to the long-term fans with all this behind-the-scenes trivia from Joe's notebooks, all these deep dives into lore. And I mean, it's funny. You can ask August. I keep trying to ask August questions. I'm like, there's no way there's an answer to this. Like, who made the clothes for that guy? And he says, well, Joe wrote about that. And then he tells me the answer. It's this deep, this world has so much to it. And it just makes it so much fun to dive into.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's talk very briefly about what you're writing, and then we gotta start wrapping things up.
No worries. Yeah. My own project is I'm writing a novel that is called The In-Betweener at this time. And I don't want to say too much about it because it's kind of each page gives you the next like piece of the story. It keeps kind of, when you first start it, you think it's about one thing. You think you're reading about a cyberpunk world. As you go on, you begin to realize that you're not quite reading about that. You're actually reading about how Disney took over the world. And then you realize you're not quite reading about that. You're reading about this murderer named the Tall Man. And all of that sort of flows together to create this this story that kind of keeps unwrapping itself as you go along.
Sounds very cool. Very cool.
Awesome.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Or Diane, feel free to jump in, of course, as always. Or any questions from our co-guests?
Well, Eli says that they're quietly chanting Game of Tomes to influence John to join us. Just because of the link to Game of Tomes, I can't help but make the joke. I'm sure it's been made before, but it seems like you actually know quite a lot, Jon Snow.
Well, I do have a story about that very quickly.
Oh, good. Cool.
My grandparents are the Snows. No joke. I am Jon Stark, and I am actually Jon Snow.
That's awesome. That is amazingly cool.
I think that got me exactly one date in college.
Dazzlecat would like to know, how soon are all the reprints coming out?
Well, that's a wonderful question. The first 3 are actually available right now. You can go to HomeGuard Press, which is at magnamund.com. I'll put it in the chat.
Great.
Magnamund.com. You can find the books right there, and they're releasing more as they go on. So, yeah, you can right now pick up Lone Wolf books.
Awesome. Those books were so fun. I might have to go and grab one and just have like a nostalgia fit.
Oh, and this is the way to play them. I mean, this is such a work of love. The definitive editions are updated maps, new art. They added sections. They also have appendices at the end of the book, which teach you how to speak Giak and all sorts of other languages from the series. It's pretty incredible what they've done.
Our World Anvil community fans will be all over that. We're all into the big world building stuff. Conlangs are the best. So yeah, I'm sure you're going to get a lot of people coming to check it out.
That's
awesome.
amazing. And I also encourage people to go to projectaeon.org because, that is where the benefit of the new versions, of course, is all this new stuff. But this is where you can go if you want to just check out this series right now. You can do it. And I swear, if you pick up a single book off the site, you'll want to continue the adventure right away. So here's where you can do it in the meantime.
Brilliant.
Awesome. Any more questions, Diane?
No, I'm actually, I gotta go check this out myself. I missed this series somehow. I guess because, it was the early days of the internet and I was still stuck on Yahoo groups at the time and SCA stuff. So I'm going to definitely go check that out.
I can remember picking them up at Walden's here and there. I think I probably had the first 4 and then they kind of disappeared.
It got hard to find them. Stores wouldn't hold them. I had to go through some like rare booksellers back in the day to find them.
Wow.
And I'm actually, this is a great time to get into the series because we're also updating some of the language used. I mean, Joe was a really progressive writer, but he did not. I mean, a lot of the tropes of the days are there. It's kind of assumed that your character is a man and all this stuff. We're actually going back in, and one of the things they're changing is they're trying to use more gender-neutral pronouns, try to make the character so it could be a man or a woman or non-binary, and really kind of update it in some of those ways for the modern audience. So it's just been cool to see. I rarely see that level of dedication to a piece that I've seen with this fan base and Ben honoring his father's legacy.
That's awesome. Dazzlecat in the chat says that she has most of the American versions of the books, so you've connected to another fan, which is really cool. And I know Daz likes to write choose your own adventures of her own, so maybe that was an influence for her too.
Oh, I love to hear that. That's amazing. That's so great.
I will say we're actually interviewing an author from one of the Choose Your Own Adventure books coming up soon, so keep your eyes and ears out for that.
Ooh.
That's great.
Yeah, no, that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually
which
a little
one,
nervous
if I may
about
ask?
it. His name is, and this is a new book. His name is Kazim Ali. Kazimali.
I know that name. I know that name. I've read something he's done. I don't remember.
He's written a lot.
Yeah.
I think he tends towards, capital L literature. I know he's written a ton of poetry and stuff like that. But it's a YA focused choose your own adventure. So it's gonna be a cool interview, I think.
You said literature, I was picturing Choose Your Own Fitzgerald. Maybe like Did I Lay Dying? Yeah,
no, it's a fantasy. It's going to be a fantasy. I have not read it yet. It's not that close to the interview yet that I've actually read it. But it's coming up on my TBR very, very quickly. All right, Diane, how do you want to do this? Do you want to talk to Eli next, or do you want to do like what gives you hope questions and then talk to Eli?
That's a good question. You know what? No, let's talk to Eli first, and then we'll do the what gives you hope questions while we're thinking about who's online and who we're going to raid after, I think. So, yeah.
Okay. So the way this normally goes, if no one is familiar with the way this works, is at the end of the episode, we always ask our guests, what gives you hope? Right now, that's like our ending question and also contact information and stuff like that. So
stuff you want to promote,
first.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. So
right. Yeah. So we'll talk to Eli first, and then we will get to that.
Okay. So I've been meaning to have Eli on the show for a while, but I knew it wouldn't be a very long interview. So figuring out the best format to do that has been kind of difficult. And this is something that I think is really fun. This show is all about hope punk. It's about hope punk in fiction and in games and in fandom and in real life. And it's very rare that you get to see that kind of in action. And I have had this occasion with Eli. It's really kind of beautiful. So I'll start by setting up the story. You guys have heard me talk on the show before about an event that I am one of the organizers for called the Game of Tones. This was an idea that I had in 2020. There is an event that's associated with the National Novel Writing Month event, NaNoWriMo, as writers call it, and are more familiar with it as probably you've heard that term too. There's a thing that happens on Twitter called the Nano House Cup. It's run by a wonderful person named Elena May. And basically for like 3 hours, you go on the Twitter account for NaNoWriMo and you choose one of the Hogwarts houses to represent, and your word counts are counted cumulatively. And then she runs writing sprints. And at the end, you get bragging rights, and there's all kinds of GIFs and emojis and things that are used to kind of celebrate that. Well, this year, after all the stuff that came out about in 2020, all of the stuff that came out about J.K. Rowling and whatnot, I didn't want to support her. But I liked the idea. And I also thought, gee, it'd be fun if we had something that ran all month. So I was talking to my partners about it, and at the dinner table, the idea is basically it's modeled after Game of Thrones, obviously, and it's a similar premise. You pick there are fictional houses that we have created that are parodies, and you pick one of those houses to represent, and your word counts are counted cumulatively. So it's a team sport. The difference is that it runs all month during the month of November. We also do Camp NaNoWriMo versions now in April and July, which we call the Tourney of Tales. Same principle, only the special condition that I'm about to tell you about doesn't happen. It's just bragging rights. It's more like Dunk and Egg as opposed to A Song of Ice and Fire, right? In November, every 5 days, the house with the least word count between them is eliminated. 1/3 of that house is randomly drafted by a name picker to join the undead horde. And then they must write for the undead horde for the remainder of the competition. So nobody has to stop writing, right? It's all but then you get to play the bad guy, right? You get to be one of the zombies. So I'm now going to turn the floor over to Eli about how Eli got involved. And Eli came up with a great idea this year that expanded the whole event and made it so much more interesting. So I bet that's a little bit on the spot, but when did you get involved, Eli, and how did you come up with this idea?
I got involved in Game of Tomes in November of 2020. I think it was around somewhere in the vicinity of the 14th to the 17th. I don't remember. I came in on the tailcoats of another event called 100 Hours of Writing on Twitch, which was run that year exclusively by municipal liaisons from the NaNoWriMo community.
They're awesome too.
Yeah, they are awesome. And I started streaming on Twitch during that event and decided I absolutely loved it. And at the very tail end of that particular event, we raided into Coffee Quill's channel.
Right.
And Coffee Quills immediately said, "Oh, we're doing this wonderful event, Game of Tomes." And I said, "Tell me more." And then I never left.
So this year, Eli is a musician and a filker, right? Now, those of you outside of the gaming and geek communities may not know, filk is a genre of music. It's a pun on folk, right? Where you write songs about other things like, the Avengers or a book series you really liked or whatever. Often they are parodies that use an existing song and change the lyrics, kind of like how Weird Al does, right? So this is something that Eli does, right? So how did you end up dragging this into the Game of Tomes?
Okay, so I was staying with my in-laws for a couple of days prior to NaNoWriMo and Game of Tomes. And I was in the kitchen, and I was making myself a cup of tea, and all of a sudden I'm humming, what's it called? Do you hear the people sing? No, yeah, it is Do You Hear the People Sing from Les Miserables. Only in my head, I am singing Do You Hear the Riders... or Do You Hear the Riders Sing? Sing... Or whatever the lyrics were. I can't remember them off the top of my head right this second. But it was Do You Hear the Riders Sing? And so on and so forth. And I sat down and I went, I need to write this song because it's really good and it's like 3 lines right now. I sat down and I wrote the song and I sent it to Sable, who was like, I love this. We need to record it. And I said, okay.
And then we ended up playing it on one of the elimination streams, as we call it, where we draw the people, we reveal which house is being cut, right? And draw the randomly who joins the undead horde. And it's always a lot of fun with, screaming and, it's great because it's such a great community. It's so much fun. Right?
Yeah, the community is just amazing, and the filk that came out of this was incredible because that was only the beginning of the filking plague, as we called
it. Other people decided, oh, hey, I want to write a song too, and away it went. The first couple of elimination streams had like 2 or 3 songs, right? And then I think there were like 7 filks that were done for the last one, every one of which had at least a lyrics video, some of which had much more involved projects than that. One of the things we did was a massive project. This is all writers in the community. They did a version of One Day More, which was called One Sprint More, most of the lyrics of which were written by Kahuna the Elder. And we all recorded different parts and put it together in kind of a nightmare of a video mix, but it actually came out really great. Each one of these was done in 5 days from point of writing the song to putting together the video, recording, putting together the video, and putting it out there for multiple people in multiple locations. And it's just madness. So Eli has now been appointed the official Filk Master of Game of Tomes and is the one who organizes all of this. The cool thing about it, bringing it back to Hope Punk, right, was that Eli was telling me, this is so cool. Like all this horrible stuff was going on, and you guys had this idea and you're sharing so much hope with people and spreading, joy and community. And I started to cry and I said, and now so are you.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, so, I remember that.
So Eli wrote this song, which is a filk about the Game of Tomes. I'm going to play it on the stream. It will not be on the podcast because it is a parody and we are afraid of bots doing copyright things. As a parody, it should indeed be covered under fair use in most countries. So, but I will play it here and I will put the link in the stream or in the podcast show notes, or I'll get Alan to when we do it. So I will play that for you now. The clips you see in the video are all from a collaborative Game of Tomes storyline that is contributed to by members of the community to explain the events of the game in what we're now calling the Gotverse. It's like an alternate version of our world where the magic of words is real. And it started as like, little reports about what was going on in the course of things, like what the scores were and whatnot, and developed into this whole amazing collaborative plot line that must adapt to the conditions of the game at the time. So you cannot plan it beforehand. You have to roll with the punches. You can have kind of a general trend, but you have to make the story work with the results of the game. And it's so unpredictable. It's hilarious. The beautiful woman that you see in the video there with the amazing voice is Amanda Panda Sensei. You can follow her at twitch.tv/Amanda Panda Sensei. And she is one of the Tome Knights, as we call ourselves, and she is an amazing person who does really great writing streams that I like to hang out in, and I highly recommend. So,
Yeah, she's awesome.
yeah. And that's our little story about the Game of Tomes. If you want to come play, we're doing it again in April for the Tourney of Tales. Same deal, only no eliminations. The conceit, and no undead horde, right? The conceit is that all the great houses are getting together for a literomantic magic of words tournament. So come hang out with us if you've ever wanted to write a novel, if you want to write stories, if you want to find a community of writers to write with. It's so encouraging and so beautiful. I can't take credit for any of it. The community is what makes it that way, and Eli and their efforts are one of the people who have inspired us. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to come. And by the way, I am actually working on another filk right now.
Ooh. Excellent.
Yes.
Oh, yes, Eli, actually, Dazzlecat says in the chat, there is also the Self-Care Mafia that started up. They are writers encouraging fellow writers to take care of themselves despite the pressure to write so much in a short time, and that is also fantastic. Yes, like NaNoWriMo, there's a self-imposed deadline. Sometimes it can be easy to get carried away with the whole, competition and writing aspect, but ultimately it's a game. And we're there to have fun, right? So we don't want people to burn out. So I love the Self-Care Mafia because they encourage people to take a break and remember to take care of themselves too.
Yep.
Awesome. Are we ready to wrap up?
We are ready to wrap up.
Okay, so I'm just going to go left to right on my screen since I went right to left last time. I'm going to ask you what is giving you hope right now, if you can answer that question. And then give us whatever information you want to give us about yourself, like what project are you doing right now and where is that located, or where are you located, where can people find you, that sort of thing. Let's start with Sarah.
Yo, Hope. Well, okay, I just found out that my husband got a call for work, so that gives me hope.
Yay!
But in terms of the community, which I think is more appropriate, the fact that there are so many fly-by-night writing communities that happen on the internet, and yet the Twitch writer community has been fairly, I wouldn't say static, but stable for going on 3 years now that I've been a part of it. And, there's always people coming in, and every now and again somebody leaves, but for the most part, you always know that you're not alone. And given how lonely the process of writing can be, it's a wonderful thing that we are satisfying that need, very human need. Don't tell anybody I'm human. A very human need for interaction and community and support has been fantabulous, and it allows us to explore creativity that we may not have otherwise done because we're bouncing ideas off of each other, and it's what I see moving forward is a group of people who are really digging into what's wrong in the world and presenting it in stories. Because I'm a firm believer that writers are the pulse of the soul of humanity, and which sounds really weird, but what we do is we show people what is really going on and what it means, and I see that really moving forward with this community and others like it.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
And you can find me, just look up Author Goddess. I mean, come on.
She's everywhere on the internet as Author Goddess. Her website, her Twitch channel, her Twitter, everywhere.
Yep.
All right, next up is Coffee Quills.
Thank you very much for having me on today, this morning. You can find me pretty much anywhere on the internet as Coffee Quills. I have a lot of social media accounts that I try to keep up with, TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, For the Words, Discord, and Forum. Take your pick. And just being able to bring the writer community on Twitch together and say, hey, you're not alone. If you have a question about character names, if you have a question about plots, talk to this person, or this person knows some good tricks. It's really great just seeing the connections between people. So hopefully this will reach a few more writers that'll come by and say hello as well.
Awesome. And Eli.
I think the thing that's giving me hope the most right now is I've been dealing with a little bit of burnout recently. Been trying to write too many days of the year for the past basically 2 years. And I was recently told that I am allowed to take breaks, and I went, wait, what? That's allowed? And was forcibly had my nose shoved in how much I've been doing. And so this month I've actually kind of been taking a break from writing for a change. I've been doing music, I've been doing crafting, I'm still going to be doing some writing things that, like, I can't not. But it's been really nice to be able to take a step back and reassess and figure things out slowly instead of just diving headfirst into my writing like I've been doing for the past 2 years. So that's what's giving me hope. That and the tomato sprouts that I have growing on my kitchen window right now.
Oh, nice. And where do we find you online?
Oh, I'm flash easy to find. I am Eli, E-L-I, Quake, K-W-A-K-E. And if you Google me, you will find me.
Awesome.
I can totally relate to that. I force myself to have at least an hour to do nothing every single day.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not always feasible, but I try. Coffee Quills, you missed the hope part. Why don't we come back to you real quick? You hit the hope part.
I was going to say, I think I hit the hope part at the end. I'm just not sure if I said the word hope, so I may have missed the assignment.
No, you did fine then. Don't worry about it.
Okay, no worries.
Let's see. Catrina. Oh, she must have stepped away for a second. It was probably the young ones. I know how that is. Okay, let's go to John.
Connection. I think there's this societal expectation that's often reinforced in mainstream media that we're supposed to find all of our hope from within ourselves. And these are really difficult times right now that we're living through. We have to be honest about that. And the idea that we have to be our own carriers of all the hope, I think, is one that has falsely led people often into places where they're not happy or healthy. And I am recently learning that I don't have to carry that all myself, that I can look outside myself and find the hope in others, be it my family, my son, my wife, people like yourselves who have invited me on this wonderful show to talk about all the amazing things going on in our worlds. That connection is so key. And that connection is really where the hope lives. And, I think some of my favorite stories, it's not some, guy just standing up and pulling himself taller and going, nope, I'm going to persevere no matter what. It's people like Frodo and Sam who turn to each other and find hope in each other. And that's what I've been really looking at. And if you're looking to connect with me, I would say 2 great places to go. You can definitely visit the website, alignmentmayvary.com. Like I said, that's where we've sort of put a lot of our work. And you can also join. I encourage you to join the Lone Wolf Facebook group. It's a private group, but they're happy to take new people in. And it is the kindest, least toxic fan group I've ever known. All these people want is to find more fans of Lone Wolf, get you excited about these books, and tell you about their adventures in the world of Lone Wolf. It is such a fun group, and I'm on there all the time. It's the best place to start a conversation with me. It's also where you'll find the podcast will be announced there and will be up on magnamon.com once it releases.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Catrina? Does anyone know where to find her so we can at least get her info out?
Well, you can find her at The Lady Writes, pretty much everywhere on the internet, and you can check out her Twitch channel. It's a great hub from there, twitch.tv/The Lady Writes. And I believe you can find her under that as her website as well, but don't quote me on that one.
All right. Awesome. So thank you, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate it. You are all great guests.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to do a raid here. For those of you on Twitch, we're going to raid Element Eds, who is one of our very own Tome Nights in the theme of bringing community together. And thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and for your great questions and comments in the chat. It's one of the things I like about live episodes is the immediate contact and feedback with our listeners, and we really appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, we plan on doing a few more of these in the future, so look out for them. Probably not every month, probably more like every other or every third month. If you like what we're doing, please share us with your friends, mention us to your friends on Facebook or Twitter or in person, or I don't know, do people see each other in person anymore? I don't know. I don't. But if you do, mention us to them. Rate or review us anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you really like what we're doing, you can check us out on patreon.com/ifthisgoeson. There's a bunch of stuff there that you can check out, bonus stuff, including discounts to Cat Rambo's school, our Discord. I do some 5-minute reviews, and we got some other stuff going on. Oh, we just did our Patreon poll. So our Patreon members could vote for who's coming on soon. So soon Matt Kressel will be coming on.
Ooh, I like Matt. He's cool.
Oh, Matt is so cool, and he's a fantastic short fiction writer. You should all go and read his stuff if you haven't already. I mean, he's easy to find. Just go to Tor.com. He's published on there all the time. That's it.
All right.
Time to roll this credit music.
Yeah, we'll start the credits right now, and I will start to raid. We're going to the credit screen now.
Okay. This episode of If This Goes On, Don't Panic is edited and produced by moi. Our theme music is by Father Flamethrower. Additional music is by Christopher Snydrowski, and outro music by our one and only Sable Aradia, aka Diane. Intro by Dave Robinson. A special thanks to all of our guests, and thanks for supporting us all. We will see you again soon.